On the day she turned 16, she wrote in the margins of a flight log, "This is my 16th birthday. I hope you're happy. Search and rescue. You still haven't found us." Underneath, in smaller script, she added her birthday wish. "Please let them find us soon." By then, she and her mother had already been trapped inside a wrecked plane on a snow-covered mountain for weeks. No food left, no radio, no idea that the man still flying search patterns over the same wilderness was her brother. This is how they got there. By March 1967, Harold Miles had done a lot of hard things in his 59 years. He'd been a logger in the Pacific Northwest, learned how to survive in deep woods, then worked his way up to owning a small hotel in Portland. Flying was his escape. His pride and joy was a polished, four-seat Cessna he maintained obsessively. He cleaned it himself, did much of the basic work on it, and knew the route from Portland to San Francisco like the back of his hand. His adult son, Hal Jr., flew for a major airline and had a layover scheduled in San Francisco. It felt like the perfect excuse for a family trip. On Saturday, March 11th, Harold loaded his wife Linda and 15-year-old stepdaughter Katie into the Cessna and took off under clear enough skies. The plan was simple: hop down past Medford, refuel at Red Bluff, and then continue to the Bay Area. One decision that morning turned out to be fatal. In the rush, the family's survival kit, emergency rations, flares, a small rifle, never made it onto the plane. About halfway through the flight, Harold checked in by radio near Medford, Oregon. After that, things changed very fast. Cloud thickened. Visibility shrank. Within minutes, they were in a full whiteout. Snow hammered the windshield. Ice began crusting on the leading edges of the wings. A strong crosswind nudged the little Cessna west, away from its intended track and the rivers and roads Harold usually used as visual guides. He was flying under visual rules. Suddenly, there was nothing to see. In modern terms, it was the nightmare scenario pilots call VFR into IMC. You launch on clear day procedures and blunder into instrument weather. You can't see the horizon. Your inner ear lies to you. And if you're not on instruments, geography becomes a blindfold. Harold had only a compass heading and his experience. Unseen beneath the cloud, the Trinity Mountains rose up to meet him. As the wind and ice dragged the Cessna lower, a dark slope materialized out of the white directly ahead. There was no time to climb, no space to turn. He put the plane down on the side of the mountain. Most people do not walk away from that kind of landing. Somehow, all three of them did. The Cessna ended up on its side, nose into the slope, windows smashed, snow blowing in through a door that wouldn't shut. Harold's arm was broken, ribs crushed, spine injured, face cut. Linda had a smashed wrist and ankle, deep cuts, and a likely concussion. Only Katie, bruised and shaken, could really move. When Harold tried the radios, there was nothing. Both had been destroyed in the impact. Their inventory was grim. One ruined aircraft, two badly injured adults, one teenager, a few sandwiches, 3 jars of jam, some sweets, vitamin tablets, laxatives, and the clothes they were wearing. Outside, the storm howled. When the plane failed to arrive in Red Bluff, alarms did go out. The Air Force, Civil Air Patrol, and local pilot groups launched search flights. The problem was simple and enormous. No one knew where to look. Between the last radio call near Medford and the planned fuel stop at Red Bluff stretched over 240 kilometers of rugged country. At even a 20 to 30 kilometer drift off course, and you're searching thousands of square kilometers of forest, mountains, and deep ravines, in winter, with low cloud. The wreck lay on the north face of an isolated peak, buried in trees, already being covered by fresh snow. On the mountain, the family did what they could. They hung clothes and sheets over the broken windows to keep out the wind. They rationed their meager food. By the second morning, Linda already had frostbite on her toes. They melted snow in cups against their own skin just to have water to drink. Back in California, Hal Jr. heard his family's plane was missing and immediately volunteered. As a former Air Force pilot, he joined the search, flying grids over the same mountain ranges where his mother and sister waited in a tilted fuselage below. He never knew how close he came. On day 3, Katie tried to leave the wreck and scout, but the snow was so deep and the visibility so bad she was forced back, losing her shoes in the process. By day 5, Harold's injuries had stabilized just enough for him to consider walking out. The food was nearly gone. If they stayed, they would starve. He wrapped himself in what clothing he could, forced his battered body out into chest-deep snow, and began to work his way downhill. Linda and Katie could hear his shouts for a while. "I made it across the gully," and then only the wind. He never came back. The search effort continued above them, but after nearly 400 hours of flight time and no trace, official operations were scaled down. Hal Jr. refused to stop. He paid for fuel out of his own pocket and kept flying missions for more than 3 months. Under the wing of the wreck, time dissolved into cold and hunger. To keep from losing their minds, Linda and Katie cut up seat covers to make playing cards, wrote lists of food they would eat when they got home, and kept a rough diary in the margin of the aircraft's flight log. Katie circled each day on the calendar page, jotting notes about the weather. In nearly 2 months, they had only 2 fully clear days. The rest were storms, overcast, freezing rain. On April 30th, Katie's 16th birthday, she scrawled her bitter joke at the searchers, then confessed in the same entry that all she really wanted was to be found. For days later she wrote, "It's a bright and drippy a day. We are completely soaked." After that, the handwriting stops. In one final note, she explained they were too weak to keep updating the log and didn't expect to live much longer. Sometime in early May, the cold and starvation finished what the crash had started. Their bodies were not found until October. A deer hunter named Floyd Balling stumbled on the wreck, half hidden in trees at about 1,500 meters up a remote slope. Inside, amid shredded upholstery and snow, were the scattered bones of Linda and Katie and the flight log that told their story. Hal Jr. returned to the area, read what his sister had written, and wept. He sold the diary to a magazine, not for profit, but to make sure people knew what had happened, and how close the system had come to saving them, if only someone had known where to look. He and his brothers camped at the crash site, still trying to find some sign of their father. They didn't. Work and life eventually dragged them back to the city. 2 years later, hunters found Harold's remains in a field less than a dozen meters from a mountain road. He had built a huge arrow out of branches pointing back toward the wreck, and hung his gloves on a tree trunk in the hope some passing driver would notice. He died of exposure within sight of the telephone poles that lined the road. A faded hotel ballpoint with his name on it lay in the grass beside his bones. Hal Jr. never forgave the chaos he'd witnessed in the search effort. He called it sloppy, under-equipped, and far too quick to give up. But he didn't just complain. He pushed. Katie's diary reached the desk of a U.S. senator with a background in military aviation. Reading about 2 women slowly dying under a Cessna while search planes flew blind above them helped turn a technical issue into a human one. Within a few years, what had been an optional extra, a small emergency transmitter that could broadcast a downed plane's position, became mandatory on almost every private aircraft using public airports in the United States. Since then, thousands of people who would once have joined the long list of missing, presumed dead, have been found within hours instead of months. All because a girl who spent her 16th birthday freezing on a mountainside kept circling dates in a logbook and writing down just how long it was taking the world to notice she was gone.